Return to Oz, in my opinion, is one of the best adaptations of Baum's work on screen, and it's brilliant. I love it. It was a critical failure,
Yeah.
but it is considered one of the best adaptations amongst Oz fans. Hi there, my name is Tori. I'm the host of the Oz Vlog. I'm an Oz historian, and I'm here on the Chronicles of Podcast with Tom and Jamie. So, here they are, the famous ruby slippers.
Ladies and gentlemen, theys and thems, this week we bring you another incredible guest. This week's guest has turned her love for a land that's found somewhere over a rainbow into a platform to educate others about the marvellous world of Franco Baum. With a collection of over 2,000 items and enough knowledge to fill an Emerald City, follow us as we travel down the yellow brick road as we bring you Tori Calamito for the Chronicles of the Oz Vlog.
Oh,
Wow, that was an intro. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, it's wonderful to have you here. But before we get into all that deliciousy stuff, how has your Friday been? What have you been doing yourself today?
It's been lovely, just answering emails, setting up appointments, living that life.
Just no fair, just the usual, like bit
Just
of
the
adult
usual.
admin as well. Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, this is a little bit weird for me, not seeing you on my phone while holding a little wand microphone. It's going to take some getting used to. But Tori, how we like to start these things is take them right back to the beginning, back to when you were a little girl growing. What did you want to be when you were growing?
I wanted to be a trauma surgeon.
Wow.
Yeah, that's quite a contrast.
Yeah. My 7th grade science teacher told me I was not smart enough to be a doctor and I should give up all dreams of that, which I did.
Wow.
Yeah. She was being brutally honest, but she wasn't wrong. She was like, kids with C's in science don't become surgeons. And I was like, okay, fair. So I'm also a very artistic person. So I pivoted and ended up studying theater and psychology. And I feel that I've used all of those skills a lot throughout my life.
What drew you to trauma surgeon originally, though? What was it that made you want to do that?
So young.
I wanted to do something that would allow me to be of use to society. And I
Yeah.
grew up in a family of immigrants who had never had access to an education. And my parents always said that doctors were the highest members of society. And I wanted to be the first doctor in our family.
Whoa.
Now, my cousin Megan actually did it. So, yay, Megan.
Props to Megan. That's
No,
amazing. So if we're gonna start this crazy journey of yours, obviously it must have started somewhere. So what was your first introduction to the land of Oz?
The rumor has it that I saw the film for the first time when I was 2. I don't have any memory of this, but our home had just burned and we needed to go somewhere while it was being repaired. And my mother had just lost her biological father to cancer. And so her mom, my grandmother, invited us to come and stay with her while our home was being repaired, which took about 2 months because the whole 3rd floor and roof needed to be rebuilt. And while we were staying there, she showed us The Wizard of Oz. And my mom thought it might be too scary for us, but she had just gotten the 50th anniversary VHS tape. And so we sat down and watched it. And from then on, I was completely hooked. Would watch, rewind to the beginning, watch again. And when we went back home, I took that VHS tape with me and I still have it.
Oh, no
That's
way.
amazing.
Yeah.
That's absolutely incredible. I was gonna say, was it like an immediate love, but I think the fact you stole the tape proves that yes, it was.
I mean, she wasn't under any duress. She certainly could have taken it from my small little hands, but she was also the most generous human being who ever lived and probably would not have said no.
Can you imagine that? No, it's mine. It's mine. It's mine.
They were not cheap, relatively speaking. VHS tapes were quite pricey at the time. So it was a bit of a sacrifice. But like I said, she was just a loving and kind. She's the pinnacle grandma when you think about grandmas. She was that lady. So
I love that. Absolutely love that. But what was it that drew you to that world, do you think? Obviously, such a young age.
I think what draws you in when you're young are the bright colors and the beautiful music. And the reason you stick with it is there are really universal human themes throughout: found family, self-actualization, finding your way down your yellow brick road and avoiding all your flying monkeys and wicked witches you encounter along the way. Those themes, I think, keep us coming back for more. But of course, Judy Garland is she's transporting. She's so genuine. You believe every word. And so, I think that's what brings us in initially.
100%. Like, even since I was a little kid, every time I hear Somewhere Over the Rainbow, I ain't afraid to admit I get teary because it's just such a beautiful performance. I remember they played it at my nan's funeral early last year, and I was just like, gone. I kept myself together all day, and then that, and I was just gone.
I'm so
Like,
sorry for your loss.
no, thank you. But yeah, it's just such an impactful performance. It's incredible.
It's her sincerity, I think. You really do believe when she's singing that she means what she's saying. And her performance all the way throughout the film is so genuine and sincere. It's impossible not to root for her.
Absolutely. But what was it that stuck with you though? Because obviously you got, oh, I'm a casual fan, I like it, and then there's owning over 2,000 pieces and knowing everything there is in the world to know about it. What was it, do you think, that really drew you in? Was it the film, the books, everything?
The film was certainly the gateway Oz drug for me. And then I wanted to know everything I could know about it. And so I grew up in the very early stages of the internet age and found some resources, some books that I could read about the making of the film. And through those resources, learned about the books by L. Frank Baum. And then wanted to read everything I could get my hands on. So it kind of snowballed from there. But I was never a casual fan. I started collecting when I was 9 years old. That same grandmother gave me my first collectible piece. So I would never have categorized myself as a casual fan.
Let's just get that straight right from the beginning. Never a
Fanatical from
casual.
the start. Total fanatic.
What blows my mind and people don't realize when it comes to the books is just how many there are.
Yes.
Because I got the collection for Christmas this year, and when I opened it, I think it's my wife was like, "There's 15 of them."
Yes. There are 14 full-length novels and a book of short stories that L. Frank Baum wrote himself, the last of which was published after his death. He died in 1919. It came out in 1920. And the publishers tapped another author to be the next royal historian, Ruth Plumley Thompson. So the book series continued after Baum's death, and there are now over 40 canon Oz books in the series.
Wow, I didn't even know that. That's mental.
Yeah. And lots of non-canon books as well, like Gregory Maguire's Wicked series, and so many artists have been inspired by Baum's initial work, and it's hard to tell now where Baum ends and where the rest of us begin. It's all so intertwined.
I love that. That is the one thing I love about this world, is because the mantle just gets passed, and they keep honor to it, and it's beautiful. I absolutely love it. But you mentioned then that your grandmother brought you your first piece. What was the first piece in your collection?
It was a Dave Grossman snow globe, which was a snow globe that had Dorothy and Glinda in the middle. It plays over the rainbow. It's got a hand-carved base with Munchkin Land around the bottom. And I told my daughter, if she sells everything else after I'm gone, that's the one thing I want her to keep. It's the only thing that I say, carry this forward with you. All the rest you can throw out or sell or whatever.
It's because I don't throw it out. Jesus, there's fortune worth it. That's your inheritance, kid. Don't throw it away.
If I play my cards right, she'll have far more than my millennial junk to take forward with her in life.
What point did you go in this collecting? Oh, this is a thing. I don't just have a couple of knickknacks. This is a thing now.
Willard Carroll, another Oz historian and collector, said it begins on a shelf, and then before you know it, it's a corner, and then a wall, and then it's your whole home. And that's very much what my experience was. For that same birthday, I got some money, and with that money, I ordered some more collectibles. So by the end of that summer, I had a whole shelf of Oz things. And then other people started getting them for me for my birthday, for Christmas. And, every spare cent that I had, I spent trying to hunt down other things. And then eBay became a thing, and boy, did that change my life. And I had joined the International Wizard of Oz Club that summer of my 9th birthday. and found out there was this whole world of collectors who were also on the hunt, just like me, and big, serious fans. So that was really a transformative moment of like, well, first of all, I'm not alone on this island, but also there's so much out there to learn.
Yeah.
Now, I am not a massive. I know nothing about Wizard of Oz. Basically, I am a complete newbie. So Jamie's obviously the complete opposite end of the scale to me. So forgive me if I'm here going, okay, oh, interesting. Okay, forgive. But what do you think it is about this universe that's lasted? That the longevity has been so vast and long compared to other ones that have like come for a cup of tea, whereas Oz has been going for what, over 100 years now?
Yes, 100, it'll be 126 since the publication of The Wonderful Wizard of Oz this year. I think I think like any great work, you look at Shakespeare, for example,
Oh,
and
yeah.
obviously Wizard of Oz and Shakespeare are totally different things, but one of the things that it relates to in terms of Shakespeare, it can be told in any time, in any setting, and it still works because the themes are so universal to basic humanity. And I think that is what it is about Oz that keeps it relevant because those themes of finding home, finding yourself, living your life through your found family are things that we all relate to on our own individual journey. So no matter what time period you tell it in, no matter what format you use, it's still relatable.
Oh.
That's just my opinion.
No, I like it. I'm here to learn, Tori. I'm here to learn. So,
But for those, because some people like Tom, my casual listeners might be listening to go, "Oh, Wizard of Oz, it's that film from 1939," but there's so much Oz lore out there now. Like you've mentioned all the books. How much more is there out there past the
Oh,
books?
lots. Well, first of all, L. Frank Baum himself saw how marketable Oz was. He turned that first book into a successful musical that ran on Broadway and then toured the United States for 10 years. And it was massively popular. He stopped writing the books after the first six, wanted to move on to other things, then went bankrupt and had to, start writing more books to make money again. He turned his books into silent films. So there's a whole library of silent Oz movies out there. There was a 1925 silent film starring a then unknown Oliver Hardy as the Tin Man before he teamed up with Stan Laurel. All of that was before Judy Garland ever stepped into those ruby slippers. So there's all this massive history, and Oz just keeps transforming and reimagining itself, and that's how it continues to survive.
is there still things now you look back and go, I didn't know this, even now?
I mean, I truly believe you never stop learning. I'm sure there will be things that there's still things that come out about the 1939 film, never before seen images, rediscovered props and costumes. So I don't think we'll ever stop discovering about Oz. I think we'll always be learning something new.
So, how did you even discover or find that being an Oz historian was an actual sort of career path?
You know, it's a long history dating back to L. Frank Baum, the idea of the royal historian. Um, and there are many historians that have come before me who have written these texts that I've been reading all my life, these reference books that I reference now when I'm talking about Oz history. And so that mantle just continues to get passed as the generations move on. And my medium that I discovered where I was able to relay the information that I knew was the internet. I started posting on YouTube 20 years ago in 2006.
Oh,
And
wow.
so I would say I'm the grandmother of Oz influencing.
That's a show title right there.
It really is.
Gather round, children. Let me tell you the tale of the early internet. Um, so yeah, it's just again finding new ways to get information across and get new generations interested and invested. And I would say coming up behind me, there are so many people who are ready and willing to take up this mantle when I am done. And that's the goal. I want this to continue to survive after me.
I think that's where the boom of like the Wicked movies has been so helpful because the amount of people going, "Oh, this is based on something else. Let's go look into that." And so many people are more interested in it. I managed to get my daughter to watch Wizard of Oz because she loved watching Wicked, and I was like, "Let me show you, kid. Come on."
Yeah. And what's funny is we now have an entire generation of young people who have discovered Oz through the door of Wicked. So they're looking at the 1939 film through that lens, which is completely different. And it's so fascinating to answer their questions coming in from the other way. Because all of us growing up discovered Wicked through the lens of the traditional story. So
Mm.
it's really fun, and I'm so glad Wicked exists. But this is what Oz does. Every generation, there's another piece by another artist that inspires a resurgence of interest. And so the wave of Oz comes back in. And even when it pulls out to sea for a while, we know it will come back in some form.
Like for me, obviously I loved the original movie when I was a kid, but it was Return to Oz that got me. Like
Yes. Oh,
I love Return to Oz. Like the Wheelers are the most terrifying thing I've ever laid my eyes on. Like TikTok is just an absolute hero. Like, and it's just an incredible film. Fairuza Balk's performance is just mwah. Like no young girl should be able to act that damn convincingly. It's oh,
yeah.
incredible, incredible film. And like I say, like no matter what it is, there's so many different options out there to get drawn into this world.
Return to Oz, in my opinion, is one of the best adaptations of Baum's work on screen, and it's brilliant. I love it. It was a critical failure,
Yeah.
but it is considered one of the best adaptations amongst Oz fans, and it has achieved, I would say, cult status at this
Mm.
point, cult classic status.
Oh, absolutely. But what I love about your content, though, is the attitude of all Oz is good Oz, raising awareness for that world. But there is one exception, isn't there, Tori?
There are a couple of exceptions, but I think I know the one you're about to say.
Oz the Great and Powerful?
Ugh. Yep, that's the one I thought you were gonna
Yeah.
say.
I rewatched this today
Oh, I'm
because I was
sorry.
like, because I was
Deepest
like,
condolences. You lost 2 hours of your life that you're
it
never gonna
really,
get back.
it really did. I was like, there's got to be something redeeming about this. And other than the China girl, I got nothing.
It's beautiful to look at. It's always delightful to see Oz on screen. And the original concept is what I think makes me the most angry because it had so much potential to be great. They originally wrote that script with Robert Downey Jr. in mind to play Oscar Diggs. And it was based in the actual origin story of the wizard. And then Alice in Wonderland was a massive hit, and Disney being Disney was like, you know what? The formula is here. Chosen one narrative, prophecy. Let's throw in a love triangle to, make it even more interesting. And they took a story about a land that is dominated by powerful women, gave the story to a man, which fine, but then also made that man the most unremarkable man you could possibly choose. James Franco. All of the most powerful women in Oz are simping over James flippin' Franco. Are you kidding me? Not, no. Sorry.
I
Oh
knew
I
this.
keep
dear.
going on this. It's hard to bring it back.
I knew this would happen. But it just bothers me that she meets him and within 5 minutes she's like, I'm in love with you. I will be your queen. Like, come
Yeah,
on.
exactly. You know what? I know I'm one of the most powerful women in Oz, but screw that. I want to be your lady. The rest can, you take over. Here's your throne. Come on. Come on. The truth of the matter is, the wizard usurped power from the sitting monarch, kidnapped his baby daughter, gave her to a witch to hide. The witch transformed that little girl into a little boy to keep her hidden. And he ended up going into hiding because the powerful women around him he knew would eventually discover who he really was. And that's why he became a recluse. And that story to me is very compelling and could have been told very well, especially with somebody competent like Robert Downey Jr. at the helm. But unfortunately, they had to, get the Toomey version of him, which is James Franco. And and I'm sorry, Mila Kunis does not work in a period piece for me. Her cadence was far too contemporary. So it was completely unbelievable. For some reason, her and her sister have completely different accents. None of it made any sense to me. It was beautiful. The China girl was very compelling, and her relationship with Oscar Diggs was very moving. I liked the monkey. But other than that, and on the first watch, I was so transported by how beautiful it was. I was like, wow. And then I rewatched it. I was like, oh, no, wait. So, yeah, that's on the bottom that's a race to the bottom, and that one wins the race.
I didn't like her look when she turned into the Wicked Witch either.
Well, they ran into some legal trouble there because the 1939 film is still under copyright. So they have to be very careful about not making her look too much like Margaret Hamilton. And there is this rumor out there that the shade of green is trademarked. There's no official trademark on the record for the shade of green. But you would run into some legal trouble if you made her look too aesthetically like Margaret Hamilton. So what studios will do is try to pick a different shade of green. They gave
Mm.
Mila Kunis all that décolletage. And she was so ridiculous. Every choice she made for that role, the laugh, the attitude,
Oh, that's awful.
just baffled. Like it was so broad and weird as a performer looking at that, like, what is she doing? Why? So yeah, no, I reject it completely.
That
Not
laugh.
hashtag not my witch.
That laugh is true, probably the worst thing about the entire film, to be honest. It is so bad. But let's talk about good Oz. Is there
Yes,
is
please.
there an Oz adaptation you feel deserves more love than it gets?
I absolutely adore the 2007 miniseries Tin Man, starring Zooey Deschanel and Alan Cumming. It was a 6-hour, three-part miniseries that premiered on the Sci-Fi Channel, and it is a sci-fi, technically sequel to The Wizard of Oz, and it's amazing. And there are so many Easter eggs throughout to the 1939 film, and it's really worth the watch if you have a long time to sit down.
I need to find out. I've heard you talk about this on your channel, but I've never seen it anywhere. I need to find somewhere I can watch this because it
Yeah,
does sound
it's
really
definitely
interesting.
worth finding. And you know, I love going to see local productions of the play. In terms of film and television, Emerald City, the NBC series that only got one season, is also a really satisfying adaptation of the novels. Unfortunately, it went a little too hard into the needless violence. It was attempting to be the Game of Thrones version of Oz,
Ah,
and Dorothy got waterboarded by the Munchkins in the first episode, and I think that turned a lot of people off. Yes, it's true. Um, but it's so well done, but they just went a little too hard into like we're trying to be edgy and gritty, and it didn't work. Um, if they had toned that down even slightly, I feel like it would have been really successful.
Why the Munchkins of all people? What?
They had beef, okay? They had serious business to attend to. They had their reasons. It's worth a watch, I will say that. Um, but yeah, there's lots of obscure anime versions that I love, and the 1990 animated series, which only got 13 episodes, is one of the most successful sequels I've ever seen. Also, the Tom and Jerry films, so fun. So there's something for everyone in the Oz fandom, I would say.
I love that there's so many adaptations and retellings that you don't even realize how many there are.
Tons and tons. We're actually about to get a new one on February 11th. Fathom Entertainment is releasing Gale Yellow Brick Road, which is a horror movie version. So, you know, there's truly something for everyone, no matter what your preference is.
this has blown my mind. I didn't know there was so much. I thought there was the movie in 1939, and then I remember Return to Oz being a thing, and other than that, Wicked. I had no idea there was anything in between.
And by the way, if your listeners haven't watched Return to Oz, I couldn't concur with you more. I would strongly recommend it's on Disney Plus. Give it a watch. It's so fun. And it's got that 80s weird horror tone that kids' films had at that time for no reason. So it's a trip.
The only thing that bothers me about Return to Oz is the fact that the Gnome King dies because he's allergic to eggs, but it's never really
That's
explained.
but that's actually a thing from the books.
I'm only about halfway through the second book, so I obviously
Okay,
haven't
I
got
won't
to that
spoil
bit
it for
yet.
you. It's not an exact adaptation, but that is implied in the books. So
Okay.
that came direct from Baum. And yeah, it's just so fun. I love it.
Plus, the Gnome King just looks fabulous in the red slippers. I don't
I
care what anyone
mean,
says.
can we say Queen before his time?
Right.
My ruby slippers. Mm. Yes, Queen. And Disney actually did pay to license the right to have the ruby slippers because, of course, they're silver in the book. So Disney paid for that.
Fair play. But obviously, a lot of people don't want anyone to touch that original story on screen, like after the 1939 film. But would you like to see I don't want to say remake, but like a retelling on the big screen?
Oh, yeah. I'd be down for a remake, retelling, reimagining. Give me all the Oz because we get very attached nostalgically to things like the 1939 film, which you should be. It's a wonderful film. But eventually what happens is that becomes that old movie and future generations. I know this sounds impossible, but it only takes a couple of generations of tales not being touched for them to be forgotten or put on the shelf and mostly forgotten. And, you know, a lot of kids nowadays had never seen the 1939 film until they were interested in it because of Wicked. So I don't hear the word remake and hear it as a bad word. I think we need to keep telling these stories if we want them to remain relevant.
Because I think we're in that age now of where people reboot things or remake things, and people go, "Oh, well, this you can't touch the original. The original's the best." So obviously when Wicked was announced, was your initial reaction phenomenal? This is going to be great. It's another part of the story, or is it, "Oh, why are they touching this? It's it's in the musical. It's in theaters. Why are they making it a film?"
To be honest with you, my initial reaction was I'll believe it when I see it because they've been talking
Oh,
about film adaptation from pretty much the jump when it became a hit on Broadway. They've been talking about a film adaptation, and there've been so many different directors assigned and then pulled and scripts written and rejected. So I was like, when they finally tapped John Chu, I was like, I'll believe it when I see it.
yeah, yeah.
Like, good, another director, let's go. But he got really serious about it, and Universal, the Broadway show has been their biggest moneymaker in years. So like it made total sense that they would want to adapt it into a film or a series of films. And they did it. And when he announced that they were making two films, everybody's initial gut reaction was, oh, what a cash grab. But what he said
Yeah.
was, I don't want to cut anything. And the script they had presented him with for one film had cut major plot points to cram it all in, had cut songs, and he didn't want to do that. He wanted to make as faithful an adaptation as he could. So I was actually really excited to see what they could do with the extra time, and I think they were very successful in the films that they carried out.
They are absolutely incredible. Like, as soon as when we were in the cinema watching the first one, as soon as she started singing The Wizard and I was just like, oh, you've got me. I'm here. Like,
Gold.
this,
Yeah.
so damn good. But was there anything you were worried about? Because I know you're very attached to the musical version. Like, didn't you even audition to be part of it at one point? I believe I remember
Oh,
saying on
yeah.
your channel.
I've auditioned 3 times for Wicked on Broadway with no
Three
success.
times.
I did get one call back, which was exciting. But that is, yeah, I've been a performer all my life, and there was a time I gave myself to give Broadway a chance. Didn't make it, but had a great time and had some great experiences, including my time auditioning for Wicked. That was always great. Um, but honestly, my biggest fear was that they would fail in adapting it because adapting a musical to a film is very deceptively difficult.
Yeah.
A lot of what you experience on Broadway or in any theater is emotionally driven. And it's hard to replicate that on film because it's a medium that deals mostly in visuals rather than emotion. And you suspend your disbelief on stage a lot more than you do in film. It needs to be more literally adapted. So I've seen many beautiful musicals attempt to make films and fail miserably, either because they adapted it too on the nose. The producers is always an example that I give. Worked beautifully on stage, but the film kind of falls flat because the breaks you take for a laugh on stage, why are you taking that in the film? No one's there to laugh at it.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Like, why Bloom go so far, camera right? Like, why do we need that breaking of the fourth wall here? What does this serve? So, I think it's dangerous. It can go terribly wrong, and that was my biggest fear. I also had some hesitancy when they cast Ariana Grande as Glinda because I knew nothing about her and was like, oh, here we go. Here's the big name.
Yeah.
My viewers are actually the one who filled me in, like, hey, she actually started on Broadway. When I dug into her career a little bit more, I was like, oh, wait, never mind. This is good. And then she made an Instagram post she had posted that she was reading the books. And I was like, oh, okay. Glinda's in good hands here.
The one thing I was concerned about, and we recently had Scott Gessler on the show, who was he was a concept artist for Chistery. And I was saying to him, like, my main worry going from the stage to the screen was the look of the flying monkeys. Because, they're flying monkeys on the stage show, but they don't exactly look like monkeys for obvious reasons. They can't bring them in. But they nailed it with just like this brand new design that just was scary as the original ones, but so beautiful at the same time. And yeah, that just blew my
Yeah,
mind.
I think the 1939 film, they're pretty unnerving looking. And the stage Wicked on Broadway, Wicked the musical, they're very off-putting. They are not pretty. I actually own one of these stage used masks of one of the flying
Yes.
monkeys from the West End production. And my husband was like, get it out of the house, light it on fire, for God's sake, get it out of here, it's doomed. Because it's creepy. Um, So they did manage a good balance with Chistery, who has to be a character that you like. He has to remain likable. He has to remain sympathetic. And I think they struck a good balance with the design of the monkeys for sure. Their eyes were expressive and they were sympathetic and believable.
Absolutely. Just going back briefly, I did mean to jump on this and we sort of turned conversation where we talk about remaking the original film and stuff like that. The reason I want to see it happen is from reading the books is really that 1939 book film misses so much out from that story. And there's so many changes. I didn't realize. I was like, hold on, what? I don't remember this. Like, I'd love to see a faithful adaptation. I think
I
it'd
would
be
as well.
amazing.
I would definitely like to see a faithful adaptation of L. Frank Baum's novel, whether that incorporates the songs and music of the 1939 film or if it's its own thing completely. A lot of the changes they made for the film were to structure it with a three-act structure. For example, making the Wicked Witch the main villain, because in the books, she's not a main villain. She's an obstacle that Dorothy has to overcome, but she's not introduced until chapter 12, and then she's gone in a couple of chapters. So she's really, the Gnome King ends up being the biggest villain of the series. He returns frequently. So, the Wicked Witch is a character that you see very briefly, and she's not that big a deal. So they gave it an overarching, they gave her a strong villain. They gave it a three-act structure, and they drew in a lot from that 1902 stage play because audiences were so familiar with it still. It had gone on tour for so long that the adults who grew up with it wanted to see things from it. So, for example, the snow that wakes them up in the poppy field is directly pulled from that stage play version. And it's because they couldn't do the field mice who ultimately rescue them from the poppies on stage. And they also couldn't have done that really successfully in the 1939 film either. They didn't have the technology yet. So, they made a lot of those little changes based on the versions that the audience already knew.
I didn't realize that. That's actually amazing. And as well, if they even if they did it as a TV series, they could carry on going through the books. I'd love to see the story of Tip and Jack Pumpkinhead and the Sawhorse. Just keep it going. You can tell that's how far I've got reading them, kind of.
Couldn't agree more. You're going to meet so many fun characters. I mean,
I'm,
there are encyclopedias made of all the characters you meet because there are so many,
I can
and they're
imagine.
all so fascinating. So yeah, I'd love a Netflix series a la N with an E, where they take a book and they break it down, and then the next season it's the next book. I would love to see that.
Be incredible. But they have just announced that the guys who created Wicked are doing a Princess Ozma movie, I believe I read it was.
So Stephen Schwartz announced that he was workshopping an idea called it's the working title right now is Ozma. He's once again collaborating with Wicked book writer Winnie Holzman, and he's creating a musical film based around L. Frank Baum's lore. Now, Universal has already expressed a lot of interest, so this could prove to be an unofficial sequel or prequel to Wicked. Or it could end up being based firmly in book lore and nothing else. We know he did not bring any of Gregory Maguire's Wicked lore into this version, so it will be completely separate from Gregory Maguire, which I would argue the musical is very much its own thing. Gregory Maguire has said that he feels kind of like the great step uncle of Wicked the musical, like it's his but not really, because it's so different.
Yeah.
So I'm very interested to see where this could go. It's in the very early stages of development right now, so we'll see where this ends up.
Because I was wondering if they were going to do like Son of a Witch and like keep the book story going, but apparently
I
not.
can tell you they have not purchased the rights to Son of a Witch or any of Maguire's other work. They only hold the copyright for Wicked, The Life and Times of the Wicked Witch of the West, that 1995 novel. So perhaps someday they will option more work from him. I'm sure he'd be open to it. He's an amazing human being, but we'll see.
I just love that, you're making this like general question, like I know this, and this, and this next. It's great. I love it. But
Sorry, Jamie, just quickly, and I don't want to bring a downer on anything. My girlfriend earlier, I mentioned that I was talking to today, and she said, does she know much about the making of the 1939? Because I've seen quite a few TikTok videos she sent me of where it was actually quite horrific to be on set and that sort of thing. And I saw a video about something about a guy hanging himself and when they're walking down the Elizabeth Road. And I'm like, but would they leave? They wouldn't leave that in, surely. It must be rubbish.
The hanging munchkin myth is one that came about during the VHS tape era. There was a Saurus crane brought to the set from a local zoo to make the set look more exotic. It's actually mentioned in the books that the land of Oz is dotted with birds of rare and brilliant plumage. That's a direct quote from the opening chapters of the book. So they brought in birds. There's actually a lot of birds in the movie. You can see them like swoop in and out of frame at one point. There's a raven who plays the crow in the scarecrow scene. And then you have this crane who's wandering around the set. And there's actually photos of the director with the crane. And so, but during the VHS era, when that tape first came out, it's really hard to make out because it's grainy what's back there.
Yeah.
And so people started making up rumors about what it was. And it started as the producer's son did it. And then it was a girl who wanted the role of Dorothy but was jealous and didn't get it. And then it turned into a munchkin. And here's a few key things people need to remember. So the rumor is that it's only on the first VHS tape and nothing else. Conveniently, I own the first VHS tape that was released in 1980, and I've compared it to the digital version. They are exactly the same. There's no difference at all. And it would have been impossible to insert a bird with digital precision in 1980 when that first VHS tape came out. So no, they didn't. It wasn't some massive cover up. Also, Victor Fleming, who was directing at the time, there were 5 directors total, but he was directing at the time. He was a taskmaster and a very precise director. He slapped Judy Garland across the face for giggling during a take. So if you want me to believe that he would have just kept rolling and not done another take when somebody literally took their lives in full view of the 50 or 60 people that were there and that nobody called cut, I call bullshit. Can I say bullshit on the channel?
Yes, you can. Yeah, push can, yeah.
And also, the set was not real. It's a matte painting. So people are like, he hung himself from a tree. There was no tree. And the trees that were there in the foreground were made of materials that would have fallen over immediately, even under the weight of a munchkin. To me, the thing that bothers me the most about it, because I've gotten comments like, why can't you just let people enjoy the story? It's a fun story. It's not, though, because it has perpetuated myths about the munchkins that are not true, which ultimately come off as very ableist and unkind. There's all these rumors that the munchkins were unprofessional, they were drunks, they were hard to work with, which is so not true. And this myth only continues to perpetuate this awful cycle of abusive language used toward little people, and makes these myths about little people on sets more real. So I refuse to let it stand. It's also completely nonsensical. They reshot the entire Tin Man scene because they used the shiny suit for Jack Haley at first instead of the rusted suit and lost like $60,000 to reshoot that. So if you're telling me they wouldn't have done another take, once again I say, nonsense. Malarkey.
Yeah, I just watched it going, this has to be bullshit. Like, there's no way. Like,
it is.
Anybody would do anything to get viral or to spread crap about other people, that sort of thing. And
there are so many people who swear up and down they had that VHS tape. They saw it. They saw them climb a ladder and then drop and swing. And I'm like, baby, nah. And no matter how many times I debunk it, I have a whole playlist of hundreds of videos where I debunk this rumor. It doesn't matter. The people who grew up with it are like, nope, sorry, my cognitive dissonance refuses to listen. And that's a greater societal problem that we don't have time to unpack right now.
Have you got 6 hours?
Evidence about why you're wrong. Well, I don't think so. So there. I do what I can. I'm one person.
And you do a great job, Tori. We're so proud of you. We're so proud of you.
So we probably should actually talk about the Oz vlog itself. That is what we're here to talk about. So when did you actually decide to start creating content about Baum's World?
So in 2006, I was sitting bored in my bedroom it was summertime between graduating high school and leaving for college, and YouTube had just sprung up. It was not yet owned by Google. It was its own thing where people were just mostly posting old clips of stuff. There were a few family vlog channels that had started up. And Oz is the only thing I know how to really talk about. So I made a video about my tiny collection at the time. Totally forgot about it. Went off to college. Came home and realized I'd gotten a lot of response and picked it back up after I graduated from college and just continued making content sporadically, like usually about once a month. And then, during the pandemic, TikTok became a thing, and I downloaded it because President Trump said we couldn't have it, and I was like, "Suck it, I'm gonna download it anyway." And once again, just started talking about Oz, and it got a huge response very quickly, grew from there. So just have continued to roll with it. And, a lot of really lovely people took notice. And I mean, specifically the folks from Universal who, involved me in the PR for Wicked, which transformed my professional life in a way that I don't think anything else could have. And yeah, it's so lovely to have a bullhorn to continue spreading information and, educating and hopefully making some new Oz fans and historians for the future.
Love it. It's like, did something happen to get you like this massive audience, or was it just progression from constantly posting?
It happened very organically. I posted one of my videos about Judy Garland went viral. And I remember calling my sister and being like, whoa, are you seeing all these people like commenting? And this is stuff they've never heard before. And she's like, wow, that's really incredible. And so, yeah, I started posting at once a day and then twice a day because I started getting a lot of questions. I started answering a lot of questions. I would say the bulk of my content is answering viewer questions. And it just rolled on from there. And then I was able to join the Creator Rewards program. And it started to occur to me like, wait, this could this could turn into a business at some point. And really, this is where enters my then boyfriend, now husband, Nick, who has a very business mind. I don't. And he was like, here's what we could do to transform this into your full-time job at some point if you want to. And I would be doing this regardless, as evidenced by the decades before this when it wasn't a job. But now I was able to quit my corporate job and dedicate my full-time effort to it. And it's been really incredible. And it was a leap of faith that has really paid off. I made more this year as an Oz historian than I did in my corporate job.
Oh,
that's phenomenal.
Huge. We love that.
That's
so. Yeah, and social media content creation is a job now, and it wasn't when this started. This was a career that didn't exist when this journey began. So it's been really fun to transition.
And it's beautiful. What I love about this generation, where social media content creation become a job, is a lot of it is people chasing their passions. And that is something I love seeing, is people just, I really like this. I'm going to do stuff related to this. And they manage to make a living out of it. And I'm like, what a fucking world we live in. Like, when you're a kid, you're told, chase your dreams.
I met someone at the Wicked for Good premiere who had a Lego channel, and they had built their entire dress for the premiere out of Legos.
No way.
Yes, it was. And my husband is a massive Lego fan. So I was like, you gotta be kidding me. It was wild. So, and you're right. And I think the people that resonate the most with viewers are people who are genuinely passionate. There are obviously fashion influencers, style influencers, people who just appeal to people because of, a lifestyle that people wish they could attain. But then there are folks like me, like those types of niche creators who just genuinely care about what they're talking about. And I think that comes across. And I think people can tell when you're being genuine. And the person I am on the Oz vlog is very much the person I am in real life. So it's not an act. People, John Chu actually asked me, like, I thought you put on the clothes as like part of your channel. And I was like, nah, this is my full-time aesthetic.
Yeah, please don't start tapping things with nails and everything. Well, what influencers do, like, please don't do that. I don't see you. Yeah, like just to make a cup of coffee. I think I've seen. I'm like, what are you doing?
And I've received brand partnerships. I've been a paid influencer, but I never take non-Oz payments. So I've been offered gigs for non-Oz things, and I turn them down because it's not relevant to what I'm doing. So, I'm not going to be out here, marketing cosmetics unless they're Oz cosmetics, or, hey, check out the latest handheld fan you can get on the TikTok shop. Like, that's never going to be me.
No. What I did love, though, with obviously you getting to be at the premieres, is the Wicked for Good premiere when you did the fan letters and the reactions that all the actors and actresses had. Jeff Goldblum especially, what a legend, by the way.
Meeting him was so exciting.
I can imagine. Like, was it sort of like an inwards, like screaming, "I can't believe I'm here"? But you looked phenomenal. It was incredible. I watched it a couple of times just to go back and see the reactions on their faces from the people that were expressing themselves. I thought it was quite beautiful.
The lovely thing about everyone involved with Wicked was that they too were very genuinely invested in what they were doing. They loved the work. John Chu was a very good leader who set a very positive tone on the set, so everybody felt valued and safe that we know of so far. Who knows, decades from now what we'll find out. But all the stories I've heard up until now are that it was a wonderful set to work on and that the leadership, people have told me that everyone felt like first on the call sheet. If you had a problem, you could go to John Chu, and no matter where you stood in the rank, he would listen and try to address your problems, and having now met him a number of times, he is just kind. And I'll tell you a little anecdote if we have time. My friend Tiffany and I, who did all those interviews before Wicked Part One, we were wandering the set after an interview, the backlot at Universal, and he was on FaceTime with someone. And so we tried very much to be like, not get his attention because we knew he was busy. So we're trying to be quiet, not make eye contact. And we hear from across the street him go, "Oh, my friends are here. I gotta go." And he hangs up the phone, runs across the street, gives us big hugs, and like
Oh,
talked for 20 minutes. And he was on the phone with his wife. He was like, "I don't think I'm going to make it to the premiere. I think my baby's going to be born." And we're like, what are the odds? Sure enough. The next
no.
night,
Yeah.
there was a video announcement before the movie came on of John Chu at the hospital with his wife because she indeed went into labor that night and they had their baby. Um,
Oh,
but,
nice.
and I haven't told anyone this yet, but after I went to the Wicked for Good screening, he FaceTimed me on Instagram to find out what I thought. And unfortunately, I had been in the city with my friends after the movie. We stayed out late. I was still in my pajamas, my Wizard of Oz pajamas.
It's your
And
brand.
he wanted to know what I thought. And that was when he said, "Oh, wow, this is really your thing, huh?" Like, no, it really is, though. Um, so, he's just genuinely lovely and really wanted to make fans happy. And everyone, and meeting them all was fantastic. And yeah, that letter segment was actually the suggestion of the Universal PR team. They wrote me and said, do me a favor, put out to your fans, ask them if they could talk to the cast. What would they say? So I put that out there, and I didn't hear anything else about it for a while. And then I got the email that like, "Hey, interviews are coming up. Send us some proposals. What would you want to do?" And they pivoted this year more from a typical marketing campaign with, these long press days to they did a content day where they had creators come and do like quiz shows and skits and stuff like that that was more internet forward. And that was one of the things I got to do during content day, which was really, really fun, along with all those interviews with Tiffany Sutton. Follow the Yellow Brick Girl. You should all follow her. She's amazing. It was just a privilege to be there. And there was a pinching of myself. And I did kind of disassociate at times on the set, like in order to get through it because I was so starstruck and terrified, especially with part one. We were not scheduled to interview Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande. We got basically everyone else, but their schedules were so booked and we were so low on the internet creator totem pole. There were people there with millions of followers, so relatively speaking, small potatoes. And so we were preparing to interview Ethan Slater and Marissa Bodie, and I spotted the soundstage had been sectioned off with curtains and they were doing multiple interviews at a time. And I saw Ariana Grande out of the corner of my eye and I turned to my friend Tiffany. I said, "Look, it's Ariana Grande. She looks so pretty." I turned back and she's running at a gallop towards us. And with Cynthia Erivo hot on her trail, and they both gave us big hugs and said it was so nice to meet us because they'd been watching our content and followed us.
That's
And
amazing.
we chatted for a few minutes and then they said, "So we'll see you later, right?" And we're like, "Unfortunately, there wasn't time in your schedule, but it was so lovely to meet you." And they turned around on their assistants and they were like, "Absolutely not. Make it happen." And
Oh,
and so they said, "We'll take care of it." And I was like, "What the heck does that mean?" We go in and do our interview. We come out and there's a woman there who says, "The golf cart is here to take you to your interview with Cynthia and Ariana." Now, we had not written an interview for Cynthia and Ariana because we were told that we were not scheduled for them. So on the back of this golf cart, in the 2 minutes it took us to go from one soundstage to the other, we wrote an interview. And
Wow.
and despite the fact that they had not had a bathroom break all day, had not had a break for a meal, they carved 5 minutes of their day for us. And I will never cease my gratitude walk for that.
That is
That is
incredible.
stunning. Absolutely stunning. Big, big love.
Yeah, if
That's
Oh,
you need to know what they're like in real life, they didn't have to do that. You
no.
know, it's not like our platforms were so large that they were like, we can't miss this opportunity. So, that was an act of real kindness and love for the fandom that I will never cease being grateful for.
When you were saying about them coming up and saying, "Oh my God, I'm giving you a hug," I imagine that scene at the end of Jingle All the Way where he's like, "He knows my name."
And and I turned to my friend Tiffany afterwards and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I hope they didn't think I was being rude. I didn't say anything." She was like, "Girl, you had a full conversation." I disassociated completely and had no working memory of what I said. But apparently I was eloquent.
Ah, there you go.
I suppose you're waiting for that moment where you're just going to wake up and go, "Oh, I'm just in bed."
You know, to this day, when people ask me about it, it feels like a dream upon waking. I feel so privileged and grateful to have had those opportunities and to have been able to do them with somebody who was actually my friend in real life, because Tiffany and I are really friends. They approached us individually, and when they found out we knew each other, they were like, "Would you want to attack this together?" And we were like, "Yes, please." Because Wicked at the end of the day is about feminine friendship and the
Absolutely.
transformative power of women coming together. So it felt just the perfect opportunity to do this as a team.
Incredible. But you have had some incredible opportunities thanks to this world. Like you've just mentioned all that with them, but one that has got to have been a highlight of your career, life, everything. You got to hold the ruby slippers.
I did.
Like the fact you just look like you're about to well up from me saying that says how much that meant.
Because it's still a pinch me, I'm dreaming. I can't believe this is happening moment. And again, talk about scary. So these were the shoes that had been stolen from the Judy Garland Museum in Grand Rapids, Minnesota, had gone missing, and then were rediscovered were through a tip, were found by the FBI. Like these shoes have incredible lore. And they ended up selling for a record $28 million.
Oh,
Whoa.
The
wow.
highest price ever fetched for a movie memorabilia piece. So I was invited to go and see them. And then they were like, "You will have an opportunity to hold them if you wish." And I was like, are you, yeah, sign me up. I'm in. Um, I arrived there. They locked the front door of the building. They had a security guard there. They also had a guard standing at the door of the little conference room I was in. They had me hold out my hands and they said, "Hold them as if they are baby birds, where if you move, they will die."
Wow.
And so I'm standing there like, like trying not to, because I'm like about to weep. I was like, I can't cry on the shoes. I can't afford them. So I'm shaking, I'm holding them, I'm not believing that I'm holding them. And then, I got to sit in the room with them for a while to take photos and videos around them, look at the detail, look at the bottom, just like really incredible. And I hope they're in a loving home because I don't know where they ended up, but I hope they ended up somewhere where they're cherished because they deserved it after all that trauma for all of us. And their history is just incredible. So that was truly a moment where I felt unbelievably lucky, privileged. Pinch me, I'm dreaming. If you had told 9-year-old me, who had got that snow globe from her grandma, that someday I'd be holding the ruby slippers in my hand, she would have thrown up, bawled, and then called you a liar.
I was fully waiting for it to be like, and here they are.
If I had $28 million, I would not be spending it on the ruby slippers, if I'm being honest. I would be paying off my family's mortgages and then making sure my daughter never had to lift a finger again.
What does your daughter think of it, although? Is she into it as much as you are?
She's a much bigger Wicked fan than a fan of the traditional story, I think. She thinks it's cool. I know that there was a day I went to pick her up from school, and she had a bully, and one of these bullies came up to me and was like, "Rosa told me you know Ariana Grande." And I was like, "I do. Want to see the picture?" Nah.
Yeah, yeah.
So I won some, thank you, Ariana. I won some serious mom points that day.
she keeps getting up, and she keeps rising higher. We love it.
It's cool, and she has gone to screenings with me and has been a part of it, and yeah, it's and she's an aspiring Broadway actress herself, so she finds all of it very fascinating.
I love it. I just remembered something I wanted to bring up as well. I saw, and please explain this to me, unless I'm an idiot, the fanny pack.
Okay, so Fanny, Pfannee, is a character in the Wicked novel and is included in the stage play version as well. They are not
Okay.
named in the Broadway show, but it's one of the hangers-on that Glinda hangs out with in the popular scene. They're the one that's like, ugh, what with the hat. And so they gender bent the role for the film. They cast Bowen Yang as Fanny, and my husband had the brilliant idea to make a fanny pack with Fanny's face on it, just for my
Yeah.
own personal use. We were going to London and Paris over the summer, and I wanted a fanny pack, and he made this for me as a surprise. And I made a video about it, and Bowen Yang saw it and was like, "What?" So when the opportunity came for me to meet him, I was like, well, we gotta give him the fanny pack. That has to be a thing that he gets. And his reaction was so delicious.
It was.
He almost broke the sound guy's ears. He screamed so loud. I saw everyone on the other side of the camera go, oh! And yeah, he was really happy about it. I have said to everyone I know at Universal, like, this should be a thing that goes into production. Everyone should have the opportunity to own this. But so far, no luck. But Universal, I'm still open to license the idea for the fanny.
Come on. You know you want it.
But as of now, so now I own a fanny pack, and so does Bowen Yang, and no one else at this time owns a fanny pack.
That's amazing.
That feels like a special bond for us.
It is. It really is. Go on, Nick.
I was going to say, we've got to shout out Nick, because that
genius.
Genius. What a hero.
Not worthy. Yes.
The fact that he's okay with you bringing home a giant Wicked for Good watch at home sign alone, just okay with it, yeah.
I mean, you mean he tolerated it kindly and didn't want to start a fight about it because it probably wasn't worth it? Yeah.
How on earth did you get that on a bus?
Well, so I had planned to just hold it in the aisle, but the bus driver kindly put it under the bus for me in the little luggage area of the bus. They had chartered a bus for us that day, and I had driven into the city that day, so I put it in. I had to fold down the seats to fit it into my hatchback and into my mom van, and then I drove it home. And he came home and he was like, "Of course."
Has he put it on the wall for you?
No. The jury's out on the future of the Wicked at Home sign. We'll see. But he is very loving and accepting and is a historian himself. He's a history teacher. So, and he had never seen The Wizard of Oz when we met. He confessed that on our first date. And I said, that's a solvable problem.
We're going to watch it every day for the rest of our lives. Don't you worry about it.
And I don't make him watch it every day, truth be told. I watch it about once a week. And he's usually out and about, so he's not forced to endure the daily viewings or weekly viewings. But he's a good sport. He really is. And he's very supportive. And I would say this would not have been a business without him, because I got paid for a lot of these opportunities. And you do, as an independent creator, kind of have to fight for that right. You have to advocate for yourself. I would not have done that without his influence. I would have been like, I'll pay you for this opportunity, please. But he is very business minded. He's like, if you want to make this your career, you have to stand up for yourself. So he has influenced me a lot in that way about, knowing my worth and standing up for myself.
Beautiful.
What I've absolutely loved about this conversation and doing my research for all this sort of stuff and watching your channel is just seeing how much inspiration this story has had out in the world. Like in media, you got films, like the books. Like, there's even a professional wrestler back in the early 90s called Oz, which always blows my mind. Good old Kevin Nash. But, it's not just on an entertainment level. It touches people on a personal level. And I know the Oz fandom has had a big influence on the LGBTQ community, as you touched on earlier. Like, I remember as a kid hearing the expression "a friend of Dorothy's" all the time. I never understood what the hell it meant. But what is it? Do you think though about this world that really works with that community, that really helps them?
Well, Judy Garland gets a lot of credit for the Friend of Dorothy phenomenon. She was and is very appealing to the LGBTQIA plus community, and she was very welcoming to that community in her audiences. She knew they were there and she embraced them. But it really does go back to the books. The books include a lot of gender fluidity. We touched on Ozma. The trans community looks at her as an icon. It's not a one-to-one, literal adaptation of the life of a trans woman, but here's this person who was raised as a boy and rediscovers the woman within, and that's when she realizes her power. So a lot of trans women look at Ozma as an icon and a hero. And there are many suggestions of non-heteronormative relationships throughout the books, and there's a lot of gender fluidity and playing with gender because at the turn of the 20th century, we didn't have this puritanical idea of queerness. There was, obviously it wasn't outwardly talked about, but they weren't as pearl clutchy then about it as we are now. That we've kind of devolved as a society in that way. So, it always existed there and people didn't think much of it. So I'm glad that people, and I really do believe the LGBTQIA plus community has carried the Oz fandom on their backs for at least 50 years. I don't think it would still be here with as much gusto as it is without them. And I am so grateful to be able to continue to spread that message and, embrace and be an ally as a straight cis woman as much as I can.
I mean, as we start wrapping this up and start looking towards the future, you've got an incredible channel, so many followers, and this incredible collection of Wizard of Oz. I don't even say merchandise. It feels like merchandise sells it short. Like, it's just incredible, this collection. Every time I watch a video, I spot a new thing. But what's left? What is there out there, that holy grail, you could say, that you are like, I am not stopping until I get this damn item in my collection?
You know, I have things that I have on my wish list, things that are on my bucket list of things I'd love to have. Many of which are just monetarily unachievable for me as a working class, middle class person. Um, I love collecting memorabilia for the release of the 1939 films. There's a lot of stuff still on that list that I'm trying to check off. I now own an entire set of first edition books of the original novels, which I never thought I would have.
Wow.
So, who knows? But Oz and merchandise have gone hand in hand from the beginning. So a lot of the story of Oz is told through the merchandise that's been released throughout the years, throughout the last 126 years to do with Oz. I would love one day to be able to open a museum and have people be able to come and walk through and see these things for themselves. And there are Oz museums out there, by the way. So if don't wait for mine, go out there and see them. But someday, if I had my, dream, that would be where I would love to see them end up.
I didn't even know there was Oz museums. I want to go to
Oh
one
yeah.
now.
Yeah, for sure.
I think it's because I'm in the UK. It doesn't seem to be much
Yeah.
over here, it seems.
Maybe we need to have one in the UK too.
Yes. I'll get saving. But looking at the future though, what have you got, anything planned, any like things that you have got coming up that you can talk about?
There's a lot of things I can't talk about yet. Um, if you go to see Gale in theaters, the new horror movie that is coming out for February 11th for a special viewing, you might see yours truly on the screen ahead of that film. Um, and yeah, there's a lot of things in the fire that I can't talk about yet, but really exciting stuff that I hope comes to fruition and can't wait to share.
Absolutely amazing. Tori, I just personally, because this is a film and a story, it's always meant a lot to me growing up, and not deep diving more now as I've got older, but it's always meant a lot to me. I just want to say thank you for keeping this alive. Like, and your channel has helped fire that passion, because literally not just only because you're here, I don't skip. If you come up on my TikTok feed, like, what's Tori got to say? Let's see what we're learning about Oz today. And that's helped develop my love for this world. So just a huge thank you to myself from myself, because it does mean a lot. This story is incredible. This whole world is incredible.
Thank you. And thank you guys for inviting me. And, hopefully there's one person in your audience who didn't know about Oz and maybe will want to dig a little deeper. And that's the mission. See? That's the mission. Mission accomplishing. Go us. Go team.
Woo!
That's what I was going to say as my last question. I was going to say, like, if there is anyone out there who hasn't seen this movie, who isn't familiar with these books and stories, what would you say to encourage them to go and take the leap, check them out?
I would say that it didn't get to be 126 years old for zero reason. There's a reason why this has remained a cultural touchstone. And if that's something that interests you, I think it's worth exploring.
Mr. Stevens, do you have any more questions for our wonderful guest?
I do, actually. Tori, what has Oz given you that you're most grateful for?
Oz has taught me about what it means to truly find home. And it's a definition that changes throughout your life. You are always improving if you're doing life right. You're always learning and changing and metamorphosizing. And the journey's never done. You're never finished finding home and making it what you want it to be. And it's never too late to start. Home changed meanings for me. My first marriage failed. I found myself a single mother trying to figure out what next and thought my dreams were done and that I'd have to put those on the shelf. And then life showed me another way. And it's never too late to find your way home and to keep making it what you want it to be.
I don't think there's any way we could end this. What a beautiful, absolutely, Tori,
beautiful.
Seriously, thank you so much. I've learned so much this last hour and a bit. Like, absolutely phenomenal. You're a wonderful human. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, and we really, really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
It's been a joy to speak to you guys, and thank you so much for having me.
Before we let you go, any plugs, social medias, websites, where can people find you out in the world?
You can find me at the Ozvlog on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and all the social media places where social medias.
Absolutely incredible.
Tori, have the most wonderful rest of your day. Thank you so much again for spending your time. We'll speak to you soon. Take care, Tori. Bye.
Bye.
You got the recording all set? You don't need to do anything.
We're good. Nope, we're good.
Yeah.
We're good.
Guys.
Bye, Tori. See you later.
Fruitful lives come